Buddhism is a world religion founded by the Buddha in ancient India. Buddhists seek wisdom, meaning, inner peace, and freedom from greed, hatred, and ignorance. Mutually sustaining life, a Buddhist call to a troubled world.
The spirit of Buddha is that of great loving kindness and compassion. The great loving kindness is the spirit to save all people by any and all means. The great compassion is the spirit that prompts it to be ill with the illness of people and to suffer with their suffering.
In this week's program, we will continue to explore the images of Buddhism. If you know anything about Buddhist images at all, you will know that these images are not simply confined to that of Shakyamuni Buddha. Today, we will look at images of Bodhisattvas and Buddhas other than Shakyamuni. Let's begin with the Bodhisattvas. Bodhi means awakening, and sattva means beings. They are thus beings of awakening. This carries at least two meanings, the first of which means those who are in search of awakening, as we saw in the case of Prince Siddhartha when he left home to become an ascetic. In its second meaning, Bodhisattva refers to those who have reached high spiritual levels but are not yet fully Buddhas. Actually, many Bodhisattvas put off becoming Buddhas in order to voluntarily stay closer to the people they wish to help. In fact, their very existence is dedicated to assisting others, which is reflected in the first of four universal vows of the Bodhisattvas. No matter how large the number of beings, I vow to deliver them all. For many devotees, the Bodhisattvas are more accessible than the Buddhas, who are sometimes regarded as being too transcendent to help with their more mundane requests, like curing their sickness and protecting them from danger. Such savior Bodhisattvas have been the object of popular devotion. Next, how are we to understand the Buddhas other than Shakyamuni? Well, soon after the passing of Shakyamuni, Buddhists began to believe that there were many Buddhas, the so-called past Buddhas, who lived on earth prior to Shakyamuni Buddha. Hence, Shakyamuni, the founder of Buddhism, was one in a long line of Buddhas who preceded him. This then led to the belief that there would appear a future Buddha called Maitreya to revitalize the spiritual state of the world. The exact time of the arrival of Maitreya ranges from 5,000 years to even 1 billion years into the future. Until the appointed time, Maitreya now waits in Tushta heaven as a bodhisattva until he is able to descend to earth as a Buddha. At the same time, there soon emerged a belief in contemporary Buddhas. They, unlike the past and future Buddhas, lived in the present and in realms beyond this world. The most popular among these contemporary Buddhas is Amitabha, who is the object of devotion of Pure Land Buddhism, one of the largest schools of Buddhism. We are pleased to have Monica Dix back with us again to help us sort out what can be a very confusing topic. Well, first, let's begin with the first question about the earth-encompassing bodhisattva.
The Bodhisattva Jizo, whose name means the earth encompassing Bodhisattva, is central for Pure Land Buddhism. He is considered the master of the world of rebirth, and he consoles the souls who fall into hell. But Jizo also plays a role in terms of dead children. He is the saint for the dead children. And at various temples in Japan, you can see stone sculptures of the Bodhisattva Jizo. He's wearing a bib, usually a red bib, and toys are laid on his feet by the parents who pray for the dead children.
I see. Jizo, especially in Japan, we see a lot of him on the roadside, and you mentioned the temples, and why are there so many Jizos at various temples?
Because usually there are stone images like in this picture, and families can actually commission these images. And in addition to being a popular Buddhist deity, he's also related to Japanese folk belief.
I see.
Because Jizo is a bodhisattva who looks like a monk, so it appeals to the people because of his human character.
So he has a shaven head.
Yes, that's right, and he holds a staff and a jewel, usually.
I see. The second bodhisattva I'd like to ask you about is the so-called the future Buddha, or bodhisattva of future Buddha, also known as Maitreya in Sanskrit and Miroku in Japanese, Milo in Chinese. So could you tell us more about that?
Yes, Maitreya, who is the future Buddha, he resides in the heavens, in the Tusita heaven, which is his paradise, and he will come after a certain period of time, and he will be the new Buddha. And as shown in this image, Maitreya is depicted as a young, handsome bodhisattva because he is not the Buddha yet. But once he descends to earth, he will be the future Buddha.
We don't exactly know when he's coming, but there are different versions or ideas as to when he'll be coming. Isn't that right?
That's right. It all centers on the idea of Mappo, and there are different dates as to when Mappo started, but it's generally considered that we are still in the age of Mappo, and once Mappo is over, the Buddha of the future will come.
I see. Okay. Well, Mappo is an idea that has evolved after a long time, and maybe it's too complicated to talk about it now. But the next bodhisattva is one that is very well known, probably the most well-known bodhisattva, and he or she is the bodhisattva of compassion, or Avalokiteshvara in Sanskrit, Guan in Chinese, and Kannon in Japanese, and so.
Yes, as you say, it's probably the most worshipped bodhisattva, and Kannon can have 33 different forms, but the most common form is standing, like in this image, holding a vase, a rosary, and usually a lotus flower.
I see.
And the characteristic of Kannon is that in his crown he has an image of Amida, because he's related to Amida Buddha. Especially in China, where Kannon is most popular, receives the most popular worship. Sometimes he's portrayed as a mother figure holding a little child. So in China, it actually sometimes takes on female characteristics.
Well, that's the interesting part, where it shifts gender sometime about 1,000 years ago, isn't that right? And becomes more of a female figure, as you mentioned. Speaking of Kannon, in Sanskrit it's called Avalokiteshvara, literally meaning someone who looks over the world. And there's a story, humorous story. There were these three religious people, one a Christian, one a Muslim, one a Buddhist. They went to heaven, and in order to get into their respective heavens, they found out they have to pass a test. And first question, Christian, okay, spell God. Oh, that's G-O-D. And next, Muslim, and then the question is, spell Allah, and A-L-L-A-H. And then Buddhist, the question was, spell Avalokiteshvara. Well, it's a tough one. Hopefully he got in. Okay, the next question has to do with, actually we're moving from bodhisattvas to Buddhas. And the first Buddha is the Buddha of immeasurable life and light, Amitabha in Sanskrit, Amitofo Chinese, and Amida in Japanese. So,
Yes, Amida is the central deity of Pure Land Buddhism, and he occupies the Western paradise known as the Pure Land, and he's the Buddha of the death, afterlife, and the beyond. And his worship, which belongs to the Pure Land school of Buddhism, is very popular in Japan, and it was especially strong in the Kamakura period. And people worshipped him because they want to be born in his Pure Land. The Pure Land is a glorious place with palaces, so it's a very promising outlook for the devotees.
I see. And of course, as you mentioned, Pure Land Buddhism in East Asia is one of the major, branch of Buddhism with many followers. Now, there's the Great Illumination Buddha, which is called Vairochana in the Sanskrit and Dainichi Nyorai in Japanese. Can you tell us about him?
Yes, he's the principal deity in both the womb world mandala and the diamond world mandala of esoteric Buddhism. And he's called the Buddha of great light and truth, and he resembles the Absolute. In this image, he makes the hand gesture or mudra of teaching, which resembles the Buddha's teaching at the deer park at Sarna. So basically, he's an absolute representation of the historical
So he's
Buddha.
both the teacher and the one that represents the absolute.
Yeah, the truth and the enlightenment.
Interesting. Well, Monica, thank you very much for joining us for these two shows.
Thank you, it was my pleasure.
Because the state of awakening lies at the center of Buddhist teachings, Buddhists speak often of wisdom. But that is only half the story, for awakening also entails compassion. Wisdom and compassion are like two wings of a bird. And the images we saw today have given compassion a voice and expression to touch the hearts of millions of ordinary people throughout the centuries. The spirit of Buddha is that of great loving kindness and compassion. The great loving kindness is a spirit to save all people by any and all means. The great compassion is a spirit that prompts it to be ill with the illness of people and to suffer with their suffering. Well, please watch us again next week as we proceed to explore the basic teachings of the Four Noble Truths.
We at Bukkyo Dendo Kyokai pursue peace and happiness for people around the world. We have published the Buddhist teachings into 41 languages and donated our publication to hotels and other facilities in 55 countries. We would like to share the Buddhist teachings with people around the world. That's our mission. Visit our website for more information.